We're going to discuss the permanent difference between a spiritual human being and someone who's not spiritual. There's an open space in spirituality, in your consciousness, where you peer right through everything. It's like waking up early in the morning and enjoying the soft golden haze on the meadow. You're just happy, free, everything is innocent. You're in a different place. You're not thinking of the one you love even, let alone the day's workload. You're just there, it just is. All spiritual people throughout all human history have been and remain in that condition of first light. We experience it. I'm speaking for all of us, the many, many millions of spiritual people in the world. We're not really here. We're not taken in. We're not here to barter, to sell, to trade, to deal in any way. We just exist. Most of the truly, truly spiritual people don't even know that they're holy presences because they're selfless. They care. They want you to succeed. They want all to succeed. And that's all they want. Because they're not really here, that's all they can know about being here, because the world is, as has been said in all the Eastern religions, an illusion. Maya in the Sanskrit meaning the illusion, meaning it's a mirage. But it's projected by a dark force called Satan, Mephistopheles, and 1,000 other bad names that we know in our daily vernacular. The cold-hearted person, the sociopath, the so on and so on. The one that sees you coming, you know what I mean? That type personality. And every human being who doesn't enjoy the first light of the morning, the soft golden haze, the glimmering dewdrops across the garden. When you don't enjoy that 24 hours a day, I'll speak for myself because I'm representing all spiritual people. That's the message for today. We're not really here. And no one cares, no one gives a hoot whatsoever, and that's okay because we're here consciously, quietly, eternally. Because we're not here in the world, we're here in heaven. It's called illumination, spirituality, God consciousness, the vision of God, the beatific vision. It's something glorious and wonderful and kind and dear and true and human. The universe is a human presence. And we are the personalness of the universe, incarnate, but we're not really incarnate to ourselves. If you talk to a hypnotherapist or something that's taken people back to their early years or even childbirth, everyone has memories of these times, of these places, of the indignity of some of the doctors or the beauty of their mom or whatever. It's a trajectory that we all pass through being incarnate, but all spiritually conscious, all deep, well-meaning human beings are aware of these different areas of our psyche, of our consciousness. And for the spiritual, for the truly spiritual, we're not taken in at all by any of the temptations of the world. I remember reading a book years ago called Time on Device, which was about casinos where they'd hire the finest psychologists in the world, the same way as I read books in the 60s about all the big markets and whatever companies you had, that they would hire the finest, the 10 finest psychologists in New York and Chicago, and they would find out what's going to grab people. And the whole world is basically Satan's casino. And I say that with a lightness, not with a fear. So if you understand that, you can be with us who are not here. Not here in a confined space. We're not enclosed by our body or our problems or the solution to our problems. We're not enclosed. And it's a lightness of being. We are the soft golden haze on the meadow. We're the first and last love song. We're a child's first laugh. But we're not here. We all have the gifts of healing. And it's just simply opening up to these areas that we'll see in the scripture, but oh, that's such a miracle. Well, it's not a miracle to have the presence of God pass through you in any way. You have it when you fall in love, when you care, when you caress or hug a person, you're touching that. And the message of today is caress and hug and care for all the decent people in the world with all that you have, and the rest of your psyche, of your psychology, of your consciousness must cease and desist from reacting to all the tentacles of Satan in the world. We're not caught up, we don't need, we don't want, we don't desire. That's a wonderful thing. It makes you very, very big if you don't take part, if you're not tempted. It's a good thing. And you don't need a whole lot of ring time physically to get there. You need a whole lot of ring time spiritually in your consciousness to open up. I'm not even going to say receive because it's already here. You have to change the wording, your conceptions, to understand what spiritual enlightenment is. There are books of cosmic consciousness, there are thousands of them. And find some that appeal to you, but you also don't need to read or write or even think or feel. Drop deep in your psyche, your consciousness, your perception of reality, and you pass through all of it. All the interstices, whatever, of between the spaces between your consciousness. But there's no hard and fastness. You just appreciate. You just care. You honor. And I use the word love, but it's insufficient. Adoration, adore, but it's in such a quiet sense, this adoration for God, which is the truth, which is your heart and soul. And you don't go anywhere to understand God. You don't have to do anything. Just breathe. Take another breath without being conscious of breathing. And then drop in your consciousness through that. And there's an endless expanse. It's the presence of God. We just practice the presence. Imagine the courage that it takes to do this. That's being said to let you know that you'll be tempted to get this done, that done, the other done. When you sit quietly and you're going to sit at your meditation time, I've done it since I was 18 months consciously, every day from 6 to 7 at night. And if I'm around people, they don't know that I'm not there. Most of my life, I just disappear somehow for an hour. And then I've learned to disappear and be around people. And that's incredibly difficult. I'm going to add one part of the puzzle right here is you are so conscious of the majesty and purity and beauty, and kindness and decency of this very nice person we call God, who's infinitely subtle. He's in a state of adoration through eternity. And when you're spiritual, you'll have these thunderbolt moments. It's like lightning bolts going on through you 24 hours a day, except it's so more glorious and ecstatic. You know, when you step out just before a lightning strike and you're looking up to the sky, all of a sudden the air seems to be sucked out of the valley or wherever you're at, and you just this openness, and then you're electrified, and this powerful bolt comes down, and if you see it directly, it's very beautiful, and then you wait a few seconds for the sound, and imagine being in that condition forever. I certainly have, and I'm saying this for this empowerment session, so that we can all enjoy this together, step through the temptations. You don't need to sit quietly for hours on end. You can do whatever you want. You do all these different things if and when you choose, but you do not have to do anything ever. You undo. And it's not something you do or undo, but if you love God and you appreciate God, and you understand what's been said so far, that God actually is God, and the world is a temptation, that's all you have to know, because God will be with you every moment, every second. And the thunder and lightning will move through you. You are the thunder and lightning of God. You're not less. Don't be tempted anymore. Get off your device. No more time on device. Whether it's whatever it is, meaning all the temptations of the world. This is my friend in India, and I spoke about it before, and there was a 102-year-old and a 104-year-old guru or teacher, and they were students that were still living of Ramana Maharshi. He's the great, great, great saint of India. And they would, anyone would ask him any question, any Westerners would walk through the ashram there in front of the gorgeous mountain, and they would say, women in gold, no matter what the question was. In other words, temptations. You want something or need something. There's nothing to get and there's nothing to need. That's what they were saying, in a very simple but eloquent way. Don't need anything. And when you don't need anything, you don't give things up and become contrite and humble and everyone's better than you and you're going to do the right thing no matter. No, you'll be so gosh damn wise. You'll see through everything and everyone 24 hours a day. You'll never be without God. You'll understand everything all the time. I'm saying this forcefully to understand that we are not alone. There is a God. But if you're tempted this much by the world, you'll never know it. Because then you'll be fighting it with physical force rather than spiritual consciousness, spiritual awareness. So when you give up want or need, you'll understand God himself will look out through your eyes. You want to heal, you want to care, you want to love, you want to teach, you want to be there, you want to hold, you want to adore, or cherish, or build. You'll do it. But with a cleanliness, purpose. Completely selfless. Imagine such a condition. To be utterly selfless. It doesn't make you weak, being humble. If you're spiritual, it makes you the most powerful person you've ever known. And you can turn the tides. You can still the seas. There's nothing you can't do when you're spiritual. Literally and actually spiritual. Because you worship this thing, this presence called God. And you must bring that into your daily thought, your daily experience, your consciousness. You get so quiet, all the membranes of the world that seem to hold you in place will drop from you. You'll know there's nothing called a thinking mind or your liver or kidneys or your feet, or you're in what the Buddhists have always called the Pure Land. It's a land of enlightened consciousness. I keep using that word, it's because it's descriptive, and when you let go meditatively, however, spiritually, or you just be touched of God, and it will all blow up like 100 trillion lightning bolts, literally. This is the experience. This is not from a book or someone said it. This is the experience of one spiritual. There are oceans of presence, of golden light, but they're all conscious, and it's all part of God, and it's all given you. And you don't change your person that you are, the very humble person. You're aware of all of it. At the same time, you can be aware of something trillions of light years from here spiritually That's heaven itself, and beyond that, the throne of grace where God resides, of infinite humility and selflessness, but it's real, and it's, imagine all the black holes in the universe, like the inverse of that, and it's, but you fall into a black hole to get there in consciousness. It's so infinite, immense, so large, so wonderful. And the world is none of this. So let go of your want and need. You don't need it, you don't want it. And then when you step back quietly from that, not needing or wanting, just being there, it's like being a mom waiting for a little infant to wake up. You're not worried about the football game or the new tires or what your husband wants or your wife or whatever. You're just waiting for the child, and that's spiritual consciousness. That's the very first footnote of it. Imagine being God conscious. Imagine God being your child. Although it's the infinite opposite, but it's not, because in the consciousness, the humanity of the universe is yours, because it's His, because there is a God. And that's why in the beginning we must have this sense of divine providence, that God will move through us and change anything. It doesn't matter about what it is in this world. Spoke of a friend who lived in India on and off for 30 years, and one of the great holy men that he knew. He was a scientist, but he also was involved. He was in touch with all the really true gurus he could find over the years, and talked about whether it was a president or one of the Asian countries wanted to speak to him, and sent an agent to gather him up, and the guru simply said, tell so-and-so that he wants to speak, and he knows people come to him to see him, ask him, and he says, but if he wants to see God, he must come here. But imagine for that holy man to say that, I mean, you have to be in a deep state. But that's a time and a place where God was understood to be God. We don't see that much around us anymore, do we? And if we do see someone say they're God, we better run, watch our valuables, and take off. The point is, you are God's presence. If you believe it. If you let all the temptations of your psychology, your emotions, your people around you, you get very quiet. Like my buddy Greg here, you can have the toughest guy in the world come at him, and he won't blink, because he's the toughest guy in the world. It doesn't make you spiritual, but in his case it does. But the point is, it's a place you can experience. So step away from all the want and need and desire, and it'll fill your heart with a song. You'll be glad all over. It's wonderful to be near God, to hear God's voice. And moving on with the experience of this to make clear this whole message today, all the other voices in the world will be absolutely painful to you, horrible, people trying to get your attention in any way. But you don't know it for the most part because you're uninvolved with it. You don't want or need it. But 99% of all spiritual people ever live have tried to find a way to get away from everything, sit quietly on their chair in the evening or wherever, and take a walk in the woods. You know, we all have this experience. We walk in the woods, there's an openness, there's a naturalness, there's a oneness, there's a sublime oneness with nature, and we're walking away from the hard and fastness of the conditioned world. If you write down on paper 13 things that bother you about your life, by the time you're done, you say, okay, my bills, my in-laws, and this or that, you get by the time you'll feel an openness and a freedom, because you're just touching, you're scraping away the surface of the conditioned process as it's worked on your life. So in meditation, all this stuff just sloughs off of you somehow. But you don't have to do it or try it or want it. If you understand there's God, then God will move through you the rest of your life, and all this will happen. God actually is God, although God is infinite humility. God will carry you through this like his newborn, because you are God's newborn. Forever. You always were. So when we stop the wanting or needing, and we just walk away off the sporting field and away from the public haunts, maybe pick up a good book or appreciate some art, light a candle, sit quietly, contemplate the beauty of our mother's soul, or whatever, and whatever it takes to open up this process within you. But in the middle of it, you'll find you won't be doing it. God will be doing it. This will happen differently, slightly differently for the rest of your life, every evening from 6 to 7. If you want to join me, or all those who are in prayer at that same hour. My friend Dr. Buxbazen in Los Angeles, he had a poem on his wall. He was the editor of the Poetry Journal in college. And it was from one of the Zen masters, and it said, thousands of monks on hilltops everywhere, the wind blows through our mind. We're one presence, we're one being. The monks, the nuns, the puppies. Do you understand? There is a pure land. There is a Shangri-La. There is a real you who is impenetrable, who's endlessly happy forever, who's involved with God in eternity, now. Just knowing that and wanting that, that's all you need, just to turn the key. There is a God, there is a heaven, there are many, many, many spiritual gifts. They're yours, they're not for someone else. This world is a hell. If you capture that in your psyche, if you believe that and know that, and then you see the force of temptation coming at you and you no longer believe it's part of you, all these feelings and these scratchy, you know what I mean? Then you know none of that's you. It could be from someone that's near you, or Satan himself directly, from the netherworld, and all this doesn't matter once you are not tempted. Women in gold, meaning love or money. If you don't want it, then you'll have love beyond imagination, and your daily needs, like a saint one time said, that God always has and always will fulfill every spiritual as well as human need. You don't think about it. It's called faith. It's not faith that I'll get my check every month. It's faith in eternal glory. And if you don't get your check and you die of hunger, that'll be okay. Look at the life of someone like Saint Teresa before we complain about anything. Look at the life of her own mother bringing us up. Imagine the horrors that she had to face, loving us more than she loves herself. Make sense? These are just incidental in understanding whatever it takes. And then we take a step out into nature, moving toward that soft golden haze on the meadow. There is a condition called illumination, spiritual consciousness, nirvana, because there is God. And God's trying to express to all of us who are spiritual, to everyone, that we're here because there is you. It's all for you. Everything. There's something called ball lightning. It's something like this diaphanous These like 12-foot kind of rolling golden clouds. They're like the substance of lightning, but they're soft, and they roll. I remember rolling right through me down near the equator one time. It's the most gorgeous thing I ever experienced. And things like that happen in the world, and people think that's so supernatural. It was so wonderful. And yet the experience of illumination is 100 trillion, quadrillion, infinities more than that. But you handle it because you're everywhere at once. It's not because you don't want or need, you appreciate it. And what you appreciate, you become. You become what you love. When you love your mom, then it's just a love between your mom and you, and it just is, and everything else disappears. And then when she knows you're happy, then she can let go of her mission. Was for you to grow up and be sane and happy and safe. So let's honor our mom. Let's encapsulate the presence of God within us, who is our Father, and our life, and our soul. There's nothing wrong with us. We're involved with this world system. It's very temporary. Even the sense of time with the first moment of illumination, boom, it's gone. There'll be just this sense, this holy sense of you and God, and what I call the teachers, you'll call them angels. Any enlightened person you knew of history, or great person, they'll be with you 24 hours a day. When I read great literature, I always feel the authors sitting there right with me, since I was 5 years old. I couldn't say it out loud till recent times, but it's always there. God is with us in every infinitesimal moment of our existence. And we can step away from the world formed to God unformed, uncreated. Because the world is not created, it is infinitesimal illusion projected by this force we call Satan, Mephistopheles, again, all the stupidity of hell. But it doesn't exist if you don't react to it. Women and gold. If you don't want love or money, then you'll have pure love in the Pure Land, in the early morning hours, just before dawn. You'll see him, the only God. And you'll know him, the only God. We simply have to get up and walk away from the whole thing. It's madness. Everything will be answered. All the whys and the wherefore and the shoulds and coulds, it all go away. It'll go up in smoke with a divine flame over minutes, months, a few years, that's all. But the joy of the unfolding of the divine presence through us in the early beginnings of our spiritual awakening, reawakening, because we already are spiritual. We're learning to look through and walk through and pass through hell, which is what this world is, a hell. And it's an incredibly stupid one. It's like the longest stupid bench in the star system is the planet Earth. People are, they're always on the, used to call it the one-armed bandit, now you press a button, that's probably boring. And it's a casino. If you don't want what they're selling, you quiet yourself. You just get this sense of appreciation for your mom's love. The same feeling you'll get when you're working in your lawn, your garden. I just love having little growing things in different places where I could. And you do something like that to ground your senses, and then you sit quietly and You will always, 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 always know that God will be there. God is actually God. Never, never think that God won't be with you and isn't with you every second. God, or what I call the teachers, the holy ones, are with us, trying 30,000 times harder than we are every moment to reawaken us. But it's a very delicate thing they're awakening us to. It's not thunderbolts and lightning and chopping down trees and sailing boats off into the ocean or climbing mountains. It's a simple sense of awareness, appreciation. Everything becomes more subtle. All the hard and fastness of the world disappears around us. More than all this, you'll be aware of God as a person with you. Do you know what I'm saying? It's so wonderful. Why would you give that up for a few baubles? It makes no sense to me. It never has. I think Albert Einstein said how much he detested all the luxuries of men and the everyday wants and needs. He didn't understand it. He had a sense of dignity and beauty and wonder and awe. It's a mystical sense all of his life, and that's what he was interested in. If you're a spiritual person, you're truly never, 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 you can't tell most people that you're never interested in the ball game or this or that or anything. When I was growing up, they had the shows on Broadway and the Rodgers and Hammerstein, and these were such deep, powerful, spiritually heart-evoking works of art that may be looked at as silly or old-fashioned to people now, but they conveyed deep, deep, powerful emotions that touched the spiritual, that became spiritual, that actually involved themselves in a higher order of being. Involve yourself in a higher order of being. That's how you'll free your family, your nation, the one in your heart. You're not truly going to help or heal or relieve the pressures of anyone you love until you yourself transcend everything. And then you'll be with the one you love forever in heaven, the Pure Land. It's your land, it's my land. From California to the New York Harbor. There is a freedom unbeknownst to almost all of our friends and loved ones. Please let them know of it. Please survive the present darkness, and He will be with you to the end of time. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you.